Well, I just want to thank you for coming on, Savana Keeton. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. And what's your kind of claim to fame in the area? Like, what do you do? And just kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Savana Keeton, and I'm the executive director of the Cumberland Trails Conference. And we are building, maintaining, and advocating for the Cumberland Trail, which runs right through Ray County. So that's kind of my big deal.
Awesome. I love it. Whenever we were talking earlier, I know that whenever people come to Dayton and even live in Dayton, the natural beauty of this place catches, well, certainly visitors, it kind of catches them by surprise. It's like, this place is so pretty, especially when you go to something, somewhere like Pocket Wilderness or something like that. And it's like, yeah, it really is. And it sometimes catches, I think, residents by surprise, not by surprise, but you go out and you're like, oh man, this place is beautiful. I almost forgot, just living here.
Yeah.
So, so whenever we talk about Pocket, like that would be part of your purview.
Yes. Yeah. So, which I kind of, one thing I've learned is that people in Ray County call it Pocket, right? And then people not from Ray County call it Laurel Snow.
Right.
And so if I say Laurel Snow, I'm talking about Pocket. But yes, that's part of the Cumberland Trail. And the intention is to tie it into what is called the Graceful Mountain section. And then it will be tied into what we're currently building, which is called Upper Piney. And Upper Piney is going to tie into Lower Piney, which comes out there behind Big Apple Market in Spring City. So the grand vision is basically you can hike from, the Roaring Creek Trailhead all the way through, if you're just talking about Ray County, all the way through to Singing Fork Falls. If you're looking at the grander scale, you would be able to hike from Chattanooga all the way to Cumberland Gap, right? Which Cumberland Gap is like 3 hours north of here. So
Is that possible?
So currently there's some roadwalks. It's not completed. Depending on who you ask, there's probably about 50 miles left to build. And a lot of that is right here in Ray County. So we're chipping away at it. It takes time.
That's 50 miles left of what would that total mileage be?
So I kind of just use the rounded off numbers, but I mean, you could get into technicalities, but I always tell people there's about 250 miles built. And there's about 50 miles left to go.
That's not even that bad.
No,
I feel like.
It's not. It's not that bad. So obviously there's some red tape and things like that can, kind of elongate the project. But, projected kind of just from, if you're just talking about trail construction, 5 years,
Okay. If you had the land, trail construction would be about 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Meaning you can do about 10 miles a year?
Yeah. Yeah, depending on terrain, right? So whenever we talk about trail construction, it's hard to get kind of a sense of what that means if you haven't done it. And so a lot of what we're doing, people might envision us taking bulldozers or, driving ATVs to the trails. That's not it. So a lot of people in Ray County obviously are familiar with the terrain. In the gorges, there is no getting a bulldozer in there, right?
There's just no room.
We're talking about 5 people hiking in with backpacks and picmatics and building a trail with just hand tools.
Yes. Do you ever bring in, like, not even a 4-wheeler?
So, not typically. So, and that's because the way the Cumberland Trail is it's often on the side of the gorges.
Right. So it's just... There's literally not even enough room for a 4-wheeler.
Right. So you're talking about standing on, possibly, I'm not a mathematician, but like a 45-degree angle while you're building the trail, which would be a flat surface for somebody to walk across. So taking a 4-wheeler on that would be incredibly dangerous, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned whenever you introduced the organization, you mentioned the mission statement is what it sounded like. And there were three elements of it.
Yeah.
Will you repeat that?
Yeah. So we are constructing, maintaining, and advocating for the Cumberland Trail.
So constructing sounds like, hey, we need more adding trail, right? Adding trail mileage.
Yes.
Okay. So constructing trails, and that's what you're talking about with the picmatics and getting out there with shovels and taking a difficult terrain and making it at least walkable. The second one was maintaining. So like trees fall in the trail, y'all are the ones out there with like a chainsaw or a saw or something.
Yeah, and also though, to give credit to the Cumberland Trail State Park, so the park rangers also go out with chainsaws and things like that. So it's kind of a similar to obviously we aren't the AT. We were just talking about that. So we're not ever going to be the AT because we're not
the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, the Appalachian Trail. So we're not 2,000 miles long, right? We're 300 miles long. And so, but it takes multiple agencies to keep the trail clear and to keep eyes on it and everything like that. We can't be everywhere all at once. So I don't want to make it seem like we're the only ones doing this, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people involved with this, and the park rangers often get out with chainsaws, but we also do that and kind of repair trail tread. We could really get in the weeds with what that looks like, but basically over the years, if you construct a trail and it's out in the woods for 10 years, well, it's taking rain damage and stuff like that, right? So it starts to what we call like slough off. So it starts to almost disappear.
Like round over.
Yeah,
like, it's like,
yeah.
This is getting tighter.
Right, yeah. So if you're kind of like looking at a trail, which I don't know for the camera, like, a perfect trail would be like that, right? So you've got this angle, and then you've got the actual trail tread that you're walking on. Well, as it rains and things, and, just the natural progression of things, that back slope starts to kind of slough into the trail. And so in order to maintain a trail for everybody to be able to use it, we come back through with our Picmatics, etc., and knock it back to where it's supposed to be. So that's kind of the maintenance of the trail.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So more maintenance of the trail tread than necessarily being the first ones out with a chainsaw and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So, and really it just depends. So a couple years back, we hiked, a ton of trail and just did chainsawing and did blazing. So marking the trail and things like that. So really, and that stuff has to be done literally constantly. So it's a full-time job just doing maintenance, but because we're also tasked with these construction projects, we get to maintenance when we can. The primary focus of us and of the state is to open the Cumberland Trail in whatever form that may be. So we are focused on construction.
Cool.
Yeah.
Meaning of those three things, the focus that you feel right now, even in y'all's mission, is that construction, new trail.
Yes. Let's get the trail open, and then we can really, and obviously I'm an advocate of the trail, right? But we want to advocate for a trail that is open. We want those through hikers to come in and create the trail culture, and we have to have the trail constructed for that to happen.
Totally. So that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So maybe even in that order. So trail construction, then maintenance, and finally advocation. So tell me what that means.
Yeah. So, in its simplest form, it's just telling people about the trail, right? So this is a form of advocacy. Just, it's amazing going into these different trail communities and things like that. People are aware of Pocket, right? So, oh yeah, I've been going there my whole life. And then you'll tell them, well, did you know that it's part of this greater trail system? And they're like, I did not know that, And it's the same thing. So I'm from Cumberland County, which is just north of here. And people know about Black Mountain. So that's this beautiful section of the trail. And there's a little loop up top, and people love to do that and just go to the overlook. But what they don't realize is that's part of the Cumberland Trail, And so you'll tell them, and, people will come into the office in Crossville, right next door to Fortes, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we just went up to Black Mountain, or we went to Ozone Falls. And I'm like, well, that's part of the Cumberland Trail. And they're like, I had no idea. And you can hike from one of those to the other on the Cumberland Trail, So it's just interesting, kind of the hyper localization that happens on the trail without seeing kind of the bigger picture of it.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, let's talk about that bigger picture.
Yeah.
So we know Pocket and maybe the Graysville Roaring Creek entrance. How many trailheads are there? Well, do you know how many trailheads there are in Ray County?
Okay.
Off the top of your head?
Okay. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.
Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love this. First of all, I think that's more than a lot of people would think.
Yeah.
And have you seen the new paving at
I
Pocket?
have. Yes, I have.
So amazing.
Oh, so much better. Yeah.
But
okay.
it's packed now. And
yes.
Not even a but, like the downside. I love it. It's packed. That's a good thing. That means tons of people are coming out. Tons of people get to see it. I have heard some local people be like, we can't even go to Pocket. Like
yes.
it's packed out.
Yes.
So I've been telling people, and maybe I won't mention some by name because then the people who know about the lesser known ones are like, don't tell people. There are 8 of them.
Yeah.
There are 8
Yes.
trailheads in Ray County alone,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably all gorgeous. So I don't want to take the flak, but why don't you tell me some off the top of your
Yes.
head that you like that come to mind?
Yeah. So so I know you've mentioned Roaring Creek, and that's a popular one. Not as popular. So Laurel Snow or Pocket is obviously kind of the gem here in Ray County, right? But another beautiful section, and actually my favorite section, is Stinging Fork Falls. So if you hike down to Stinging Fork Falls, that's in Spring City. If you go up Shut-in Gap, and do the Soak Creek section, the wildflowers are literally, it's incredible. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm kind of a sucker for wildflowers. So that's why it's one of my, and I also helped construct that section. So
you have like a connection.
Yeah. But that section is beautiful. I'm talking any wildflower that you can think that you would want to see is on that section. And the write-ups for these sections are on our website, cumberlandtrail.org. So you can go on there and see where the trailheads are, kind of what you're getting into. It's got a turn-by-turn kind of thing on our website. So
For each of the trailheads?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
For all the counties, the whole Cumberland?
yes.
Dang.
Yeah. So as trail sections open, we have volunteers who go out and hike the sections and do trail write-ups for us, and they're amazing. And so it's really useful for hikers. They like to have that because, it's not like we're some, not to take it back to the Appalachian Trail, but that's kind of the good reference for trails. That's a very...
I know the Appalachian Trail, and I don't know any other trails.
Right.
Everyone has heard of the Appalachian
So it's almost
Trail.
like commercialized, right? So you can find it on every app. You can find it, every section is highly detailed. And the Cumberland Trail is almost like this little secret, And so people find our website really useful for the trail descriptions. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What a great service.
Yeah. So and also, if you use our maps or whatever and you see that something is wrong with them, just shoot us an email and let us know, hey, this is different or whatever, because it is a volunteer kind of, based service. So we use people's on the ground kind of reports to understand changing things. The state park may put in a bridge, and one of our write-ups may be, 3-4 years old. And it's like, hey, that has a bridge now. Okay, well, we can change our write-up to reflect that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What email address would that go to?
So info@cumberlandtrail.org.
Hey, that's not too hard.
Yeah.
Info@cumberlandtrail.org.
Yeah. Yep.
Got it. So there are 8 trailheads in Ray County. You like the one at Stinging Fork? Is that Stinging Fork? And maybe I've heard of that. I've never been there, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's really great to know.
Yeah.
Where, if it were completed, and maybe you already mentioned it, but say you get those 50 more miles. You said you could start in Chattanooga. Is that right?
Yes.
Start in Chattanooga and hike all the way to
Cumberland Gap.
And is that on the northern? This is how bad I am at knowing. I don't know Cumberland Gap. Is that like the northern border of Tennessee or not?
Yes,
quite?
it is. So it's right. Actually, so our northern terminus is the Tri-State Peak. So that's actually where Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee all meet. And
is that where it is?
Yes. So that's our northern terminus, and our southern terminus is Signal Point in Hamilton County.
Okay.
So
yeah. Man.
Yeah, if you haven't been to Cumberland Gap, highly recommend. That is the cutest little town up there. They have a national historical park. It's just such a cute area. It has the makings to be like an incredible trail town. So,
what's a trail town?
So I feel like I keep bringing it back to the Appalachian Trail, but they really did kind of set the standard for.
Well, the bar's high. Yeah, it makes sense.
For trail culture and things like that. So the idea of a trail town, in fact, Dayton will be a trail town, right? And it's the community embracing the trail and using it to their advantage. So basically, understanding that that the tourism for the trail can be used and that there's going to be hikers and outdoors people coming into your town. And so you might open an outfitter store, or you might have restaurants, or hikers love beer or something like that, where you're kind of embracing the trail culture for your community and using that tourism of people coming from out of state or, maybe wherever you might be coming from it's embracing that in your town, basically, and using it to your advantage, which is one of the most exciting things I think about the Cumberland Trail. Being from the Cumberland Plateau, I just think it's so cool to have the opportunity to take advantage of this tourism angle. Yeah.
Towns that do it well, and you mentioned like beer and stuff, like if Dayton were a person sitting here, you know, like what advice would you, they would be like, okay, so if you want to do this well, maybe try these things. Like, what would you say?
Ooh.
Or even not even, you know, it could be business ideas, but it could be legislative. It could be logistically, like how does a town go about setting them? And I mean this for Dayton, because like, I want to know how Dayton can do this well. So like, how do we set ourselves up to do this well? Because to some degree it might be inevitable. Laurel Falls is, or Snow, what did you say the technical?
Laurel Snow is
Laurel
kind of
Snow.
like, yeah.
Yeah, Laurel Snow is a gym, and it's already packed out. So
Yes.
how do we navigate?
Yeah, so, you know, and by no means am I like the master of, you know, tourism or anything like that. But I just think kind of having your community know about things, right? So that's one of the things that is essential. So basically with the Appalachian Trail, they actually had people come in, like specialists, to the towns and kind of speak with them directly about the trail and stuff like that, so that we love everybody in Monkeytown, right? So we have like this really cool partnership with Monkeytown. And, you know, kind of we've had conversations with Alan about, you know, the workers knowing more about the trail and understanding that people are coming off the trail to his restaurant and want to have those conversations, you know, or want to know about other trailheads and things like that. So it's really kind of, one, just having the knowledge of the trail, and then two, just kind of finding a niche and like filling it, right? So Monkeytown kind of has the beer, food kind of thing going on, and outfitter stores, hostels, hotels, and then, you know, obviously the internet is huge. And so it's like having that, if somebody is looking up your town, they want it to be easy to find things, resources, things like that. So if you have a hotel, right, you want to have your best foot forward so that people are saying, hey, this is where you stay if you're in town. You know, if your Google review page is, you know, bad, or you don't have good photos, or you don't have your website connected to it, or, you know, those kind of things, making it easy for tourists to basically come into your town and take advantage of them coming to your town.
Typically, how far is the town from the trailhead?
Yeah, so that's one thing. I know Dayton is, I won't even say removed from it necessarily, but obviously there is a road walk from, you know, Laurel to the town of Dayton. For day hikers, that's not a problem. I mean, they're going to be here, you know. For through hikers, you know, what is an extra mile? I mean, you come off of Laurel, you know, and you just walk down the road and you're practically in the downtown area. So I don't think that as far as the distance necessarily from the trailhead to Dayton, it's an issue. One thing that the town could consider, though, is like a greenway or something like that to connect the actual downtown to the trailhead. I know that that's been talked about. I don't know to what extent that's planned.
And it would be like the trail would kind of just continue on the ridge. This would be an opportunity. This would be like a spur. This would be like an off trail to go downtown. It wouldn't be a continuation through town and then
that's right.
Off on. This would just kind of be a spur into town.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we call in the trail business connectors, you know.
Okay.
So you have and that's a potential. So the longevity of our organization obviously is to, you know, the advocacy component where we're coming into towns and kind of saying, hey, let's connect your town to the trail more directly, you know. And so that could be possibly, hey, you guys go out and kind of pick a design for a trail and then we come and build it or something like that, you know. That's a possible angle. But yeah, you want to have that interconnectivity of the trail, you know, and you go somewhere like Damascus and the trail literally runs right through downtown Damascus, you know, or you go somewhere like Hot Springs and the trail's up on the ridge, right? But the trail town itself is, you know, designed around the trail being up on that ridge, you know, so even though you're like slightly removed from it, it doesn't take away your identity as being a trail town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is there much whitewater kayaking? This is some personal interest point because I've hiked some of these trails, and like some of the creeks seem big enough to take a kayak on. It's like, is that a thing? Do people do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For
Okay.
sure. Like Richland, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm too scared.
Okay.
But if you're not scared, yeah.
Apparently, I'm not scared.
Yeah. People do that for sure. Soak Creek, which is up in Spring City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People. You see people out there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
And it's so funny too, because literally that's the we'll be out in the middle of nowhere. And those are the one people that we run into is whitewater people.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, they will be. We were building up in Cumberland County along Daddy's Creek. And it was probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We're driving out of work. And here comes this guy dragging his kayak behind him.
Into the trail.
Into the trail, yes. And he's, so we stop and we're like, this guy's insane, you know? And we were like, are you okay? You know, like, are you hurt?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you need help? And he's like, oh no, I'm just getting ready to kayak down Daddy's Creek. And keep in mind, this is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we were like, okay, do people know where you're at?
Yeah,
like,
you left your whereabouts with someone you know.
And if you're like a whitewater person, you might know him. So it was Kirk Edelman, who is like a well-known,
oh really?
Yeah, whitewater kayaker. And so then we were up at Lily Pad, which is a brewery that's up north. And I say up north, it's in Morgan County, but and here he is sitting at the brewery, and he's like, I follow you guys all the time to see where the new trail is going to be because I kayak. I follow you to get good whitewater, ideas. And we were like, we thought you were insane. Like, we thought you were actually a crazy person. And he's like, well,
I was about to say, maybe
a little bit. Yeah.
If you're a super intense whitewater kayaker, you've got to be
a
little crazy.
Yeah.
But that's awesome because that's something that, like, every time I see the river, it's like, oh man, what opportunity does this have? Like, you can go swimming, you can, look at cool rocks, you can do all kinds of, it's like whitewater kayaking. Like that just seems to be begging. And And not just for me, but like, whenever we're talking about, making Laurel Falls more accessible or, becoming a town that's hospitable to hikers. It's not just hikers. It's kayakers and rock climbers is another really big one. So this is like, I don't know. It's a bunch of stuff actually.
Yeah. And so like whenever you're kind of taking on this identity of a trail town, right? You're not just thinking of hikers. You're thinking of all of these different aspects, So you have dogwood climbing is here, and it's right off of the Cumberland Trail. And so they're already kind of taking advantage of that, but yeah, absolutely. There's so many different communities that come together, to kind of make that culture. So yeah.
Do you know of any rock hounding? Is that a thing in the Cumberland Trail?
Is that like whenever you dig up rocks or something?
Not necessarily dig up rocks, but you just look for rocks that are either a special kind like jasper or something or a fossil. You just kind of look for cool stuff.
That is frowned upon. Just because it's a state park, right? So
even if you just take a picture of it?
Oh, no. Like if you're just taking a picture of it, that's fine. I guess a lot of times, especially here in Tennessee, I think whenever I hear that, I guess I think of like digging for arrowheads. And that's
a part of rock hounding.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with like the processes of that, but what I do know in growing up around here is that, people dig for arrowheads and that is frowned upon. So,
just because it's like destructive.
Right. Yeah. So, you wouldn't go into a state park and just start digging, right? Because we want everybody to be able to enjoy, these things. So, in that respect, you're not allowed to do that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. I kind of found that out because y'all had a picture of a fossil.
Oh yeah.
Did you see? It was I was like, this is such a cool fossil. I know you have your art auction coming up. Like,
yes.
I wish you could auction fossils.
Yeah.
I would bid on a fossil. That would be, and I'll bid on some art too.
Yeah.
But like, some of those fossils were so cool. It's like, I would bid on that.
There are some super cool fossils, and kind of, the cool part of being trail builders is we try to incorporate fossils into like our rock steps and stuff like that. So if you have a keen eye and you're walking up our rock steps, you might see where a trail builder has tried to display one of the fossils in the rock steps. Yeah. Yeah. But, as far as taking things off of the state park land, not supposed to do that. But at our art auction, which we have here in Dayton annually, typically in the spring, we have an artist down in Chattanooga, and he's actually painting one of our waterfalls, and it's called Fossil Falls. So that's another cool part of building the trail is sometimes we get to name waterfalls, because if you're the first person to come upon it and nobody has named it yet, you can measure it and name it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we named one of them Fossil Falls because they were finding a lot of fossils in that area. And he's actually doing a painting of Fossil Falls, and he's going to have like a fossil in the foreground, and then it's a giant waterfall. So yeah, it's like 5-tiered waterfall.
Which trailhead is that?
So it's not open yet. So that's something we're currently constructing called Upper Piney.
Cool.
And that will connect Evansville to Spring City. So the trailheads will be over on, it's one of the trailheads is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's Pine Creek Road. And the other trailhead is there at Shutting Gap down at the bottom of the mountain where the big parking lot is.
And you're connecting those, is that what you're saying?
Yes, cool. Correct. Yeah. So which it would be an 11-mile hike. So it's not, just like a little hike. It's a longer hike if you're doing a through hike, but that's where that waterfall is at.
I'm such a non-hiker. I don't even know what that would look like time-wise. What would an average or sub-average hiker, or even just a noob, like what would it take a person like me who's in good condition but doesn't hike regularly? How long do you think it would take me to hike? Do you say 11 miles?
Yeah. So, obviously you have to know your own condition, right? And you also have to take into account that this is a rugged, remote section. So it's difficult, I would say strenuous. It's going to take you all day to hike that. Yeah.
So wake up early in the morning, hit it, and expect it to just be like...
Yeah, and have a car at the other side because you don't want to turn around.
No. That much I do know.
Yeah. So, but it's a strenuous section. So it's going to take you, probably a good 8 hours to do that. Okay. Yeah.
That's good to kind of map it out, like scale it out in my head.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited to see that one open up. When is this art auction?
Yeah, so typically we do it in the springtime, and this one for this year is April 13th, so it's coming up. And it's called Wildflowers and Wonders. And if you would like tickets, it's on our website, cumberlandtrail.org. So we're doing that annually. And it's super exciting because we work with one of the arts leagues here in town, Dayton Arts League. And they... Yeah.
So I know some of the artists from that, yeah.
Okay. They are amazing. And they're the sweetest people. We were talking earlier about how people in Dayton are just like super sweet. And they are one of those. They are super sweet people. They're very supportive. They donate their art to our art auction. And so we try to keep our art kind of focused on either the Cumberland Trail or plants or animals that you might see on the trail, kind of a nature-based art. But they do incredible work, and they're one of the donors to our art auction. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Did you happen to meet or recall Rob Lynn?
Yeah. So he's donated. Okay. I absolutely love, I just wrote a thank you note to him for his donation. So if I was better at math, I would be a meteorologist because I love clouds. And he does the coolest cloud paintings. Like, I don't know if he listens to this or not, but he does incredible work. And I love your clouds. So yeah.
Yeah, he's such a good artist. And I'm looking forward to see so what does this look like? Like, where will it be? You said April what?
April 13th. So it's on a Saturday, and the tickets are $50, but that includes free drinks, free food, and a good time. And so it's a silent auction. You come in, it's at Trinity Chapel. We have it all set up. You can just like mill about, have some wine if you're into that, and just hang out. And, we do a couple small speeches, right, about how the Cumberland Trail is awesome and we love our work and everything like that. And then you can come home with a really cool piece of art if you bid right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's talk about the big picture. we've got 50 miles to go. You said that say you had the 50 miles, that would take about 5 years to construct. What is the process? What does the process look like to acquire that property? Who are the partners that y'all work with to do that? What is the likelihood that that property will actually be acquired?
Yeah. So, to be honest, I'm somewhat removed from land acquisition, but we have a lot of awesome partners that are making it happen, such as 10 Green Land Conservancy, the Land Trust for Tennessee, the Nature Conservancy. And basically what that looks like is they come to either honestly, a lot of land that needs to be acquired or that we do acquire is from timber companies. So it's not private landowners. Not to say that there are no private landowners, but large tracts of land are often owned by like timber resource companies. Yep. And so basically you come in and you purchase that at fair market value. And I don't want to get too far into it because I'm not super well versed on that, but you purchase the land at fair market value. So it's not some sort of eminent domain thing where you're
buying it.
Right.
And they have to agree to it.
Right. So, everyone is consenting. And, and so you come in, you purchase the land, and there's a number of pieces of land that need to be acquired. I think a lot of it here in Ray County is kind of, closing the deals. Like it's the larger sections are kind of wrapping up to.
There are currently purchases in the works that are headed to the finish line?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're super excited. There's one section that is, we've kind of, I don't know if it's going to be the official name, but we're just kind of calling it Upper Laurel. And so that would be heading up out of Laurel Snow, headed north to the sections that we're currently building. And, some of that is kind of wrapping up. To my understanding, right? So understand that I'm removed from all of that. But so we're really excited to kind of see it coming together, because if you look at our trail map, you'll see that there's a huge section undone in Ray County. And probably one of the largest on the trail, I would say. And so to see it kind of coming together is super awesome.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
Do you know roughly, like, is it more likely for it to be a commercial purchase or a gift? Like, for example, I know a lot of the times these are nonprofits. Do corporations ever gift property?
Yeah. So some of the largest chunks of land, especially down in the southern sections, were actually given over by a company that was called Bowater, but is now called Resolute.
I've heard of Bowater for sure.
Yeah. So they actually gave, and I'm not saying they do that every time, right?
Yeah.
But there was the Three Gorges section, which is in northern Hamilton County, was actually donated to the project. So
wow, do you know about how many acres that was?
I don't know. I don't know how many acres. It was a lot. There's 30 miles of trail in the Three Gorges. So you're talking a huge chunk of land.
And that was in that one gift?
Yeah. So, but that happened like 10 plus years ago. So it wasn't, I was in high school or grade school whenever all that was going on. But yeah, a huge gift from them. And Bowater has been instrumental in a lot of land, here. So you can actually read about it at Laurel Snow if you've ever read the little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how I know it.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so Stinging Fork Falls is a part of the Bowater land. So it's actually really cool. This is kind of a tangent, but one of the Bowater used to build trail on their lands. So they would kind of take, for the community or whatever, they would take advantage of the beautiful areas that they built. And we have a guy who follows us on social media who was one of those trail builders. And so it's really cool because we were doing some maintenance projects up at Lower Piney. And he was like posting on there, I helped build that back in like the 70s. And here you guys are like fixing it up. So it's kind of this really cool like community story of just, the continuation of the trail.
When would you say, was that early beginnings of the trails, like 70s, Bowater gifts, that kind of thing? Like, when did it start? When did the Cumberland Trail start to be imagined and built? So
that's kind of the fun story of the Cumberland Trail, right? So it started back in the 70s, and it was a group of guys who were like, saw the success of the Appalachian Trail and were like, we want to recreate that along the Cumberland Plateau. And they were kind of all separately having this idea. And then they all came together and were like, we should do this. And they actually created several organizations, one of those being the Tennessee Trails Association, to make it happen. And so they started constructing trail primarily up north. So in Claiborne and Campbell County is some of the earliest sections of trail. And the only problem with that is that back in the 70s, it was kind of the wild days of trail building. And so they would just do handshake agreements with these landowners and be like,
can we build a trail? They're like, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. Well, obviously that doesn't go well, because then it changes hands, or the person's like, never mind, I don't like that, or, whatever. And so in the 80s and early 90s, there was the project kind of fell to the wayside. And until Governor Sundquist, and it was kind of the right timing for everything. So Justin P. Wilson, who is the trail's namesake, and Sundquist came together along with the Cumberland Trails Conference, which is the organization I'm a part of. And they all kind of came together and were like, this needs to be revitalized. Like, we should do something with this. And that's whenever these kind of larger land acquisitions down south started happening. Trail construction started happening along the Obed River, things like that. So a large part of the trail was built starting from our organization's inception in 1996. So.
Are those the original guys in like the 70s? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Are they around at all?
Justin P. Wilson is here. He lives in Nashville. A lot of them have passed away. That we call them the founding fathers. So,
as you should. Like, how awesome to be one of those guys and like look and see 250 miles already constructed.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible. And all the acquisition.
Yeah. It's super cool. And so in the book that I gave you, it goes into that, like, kind of, I'm a storyteller, right? So I like this kind of the stories and things like that. But there's just almost this like poetic moment. There's a section of trail called the Devil's Racetrack up north in Caryville. And they're all standing up there looking. So whenever you're up there, you're looking down the mountain range, and they're all standing up there like, that's going to be the trail. And it's like, isn't that so cool?
So
like,
awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's so neat to kind of be a part of something that's been around, like this was these guys' dream, and just to be a part of that and kind of at the, not the end, because that's not right to say that, but just like we're coming upon the opening of the trail, like all of these pieces kind of coming together from these guys just standing up on this rock formation, looking south, like, let's do it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that is incredible.
I know, it's so cool. Yeah.
It almost gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's so cool to like just start with the idea and then like it kind of happens. And you're in such a cool spot to be like, it could be within your tenure that the trail is completed.
Yeah.
Is that
So I guess the state doesn't like the word completed, which is fair enough because
connected.
Yeah, open is their word, right? So the trail will be open, but the trail will never be completed, right? So the idea behind not saying the trail is ever completed is that there's all of these towns that you can connect to,
Right,
So creating this greater network of the Cumberland Trail is kind of the idea going forward, right? So the trail will never be completed, but it will be open.
Whenever you say open, I think the general public will think Laurel is open.
Right.
But the correct term is once it's connected, it will be open.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess, for people not necessarily all up in the trail, completed. Yeah.
We'll try to use your language. That's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be open then. Open.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That is, well, what a cool story. It sounds like this is gonna happen. What if the whole thing gets connected except for one spot?
So that happens, and not a huge deal, right? But what you would do is just a road walk. So, and that is commonplace on a lot of long distance hiking trails. You just have to have a short road walk or whatever. It happens. It's
so not
one
deal. Landowner. It's not like one landowner
is going to ruin the whole thing. Yeah. So there's workarounds and it's fine, and that happens, right? If you're a landowner, you don't have to give your land up. That's,
right.
it's that's the thing about the trails. It's a community trail. It's there because people want it to be there.
Right.
Right. And so if you don't want the trail to come through your land, it's not going to be there. We can do a road walk. We can do workarounds. It's not a huge deal.
I was saying, can you do a zip line so you're technically not? No, I'm just kidding.
Zip line across. I don't know if they would like that more.
More or less.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So a couple people who want to hang on to it, that's fine. That won't get in the way of. That's literally what's always been in my mind. It's I just don't see 100% of the people getting on board. That's a challenge. It's that's not how that works. So.
Yeah. There's workarounds, and you can make it work. It's actually one of my predecessors, Rob Weber, who was in my seat back in the 90s, whenever they were really getting things rolling, and we were still in land acquisition. I have literally thousands of maps in my office in Crossville of just so many land parcels. And so because in the 90s, you couldn't just go on Tennessee Property Viewer and look at all this stuff,
Right.
So it's incredible the amount of work he did, just figuring out, okay, maybe we could go through here, maybe we could go through here, finding different options. Okay, where can the trail go, because it's evolved over the years. I mean, we're talking about from the 1970s until now. Obviously, there's this evolution of what will work, rerouting, making little, connectors, things like that. So,
and that'll continue. Well, and this is why they call it open versus connected.
Yeah.
That will continue even once it's connected, because maybe there is an acquisition that creates a more straight line.
That's right.
So that makes sense. That makes sense. It's an ongoing process even for acquisition and trail making because of that, and then connecting towns
and as our partners, Ten Green, things like that, as they see opportunities, because obviously they're invested in the trail, but they're also invested in just acquiring land to conserve it for all of us to use, and so they want to add on to these sections of trail just to make the kind of corridor wider, because in some sections where we've worked with landowners, the corridor may be 100 feet wide.
So they just sold you this sliver.
Yes. Yeah. So an easement.
I was about to say, do y'all have agreements that aren't purchases or sales, meaning we have a lease or an easement that we've built in for the trail, but we want to keep the land?
Yeah. So some people will negotiate basically where it's you can build right through here, and that's it. You can't go 100 feet to the left or to the right. You have to build it right through this corridor. And some timber companies will do that and things like that, just to make it happen, right? But without giving you their large parcels,
Right.
So
that seems like a decent. I mean, obviously that's not ideal for y'all, but seems like a good compromise if it's a piece of property that you really, for whatever reason, don't really want to give up. Maybe it's strategically important, but an easement. That sounds
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anything that makes it work, and that people, because a lot of times, most of the time people are like, this is something that is really cool, but they just have to make it work, in whatever their setting is. And like I said, I'm not super involved with all that, so I don't have these relationships built with all of these land acquisitions and things like that. But yes, it can be going through, kind of this patchwork of different land management, I guess. So we go through Catoosa Wildlife Management Agency. So that's a whole different animal as compared to the natural areas here. So Laurel Snow State Natural Area, so you have all these different kind of mosaic of agencies involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about hang gliding? Sorry, this is a huge change.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, sorry. I was thinking about all the cool things that people are doing on this property, and we just mentioned kayaking and stuff, but hang gliders glide the plateau. Mm-hmm. That could be a fun thing to do, because then you could kind of check out your trails.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, so no comment, I guess. But no, just because I don't know anything about it, yeah.
But then you can kind of survey. You can kind of check stuff out.
That is true. You could do that. Yeah, I would prefer to be 2 feet on the ground. Maybe I could drone, do a drone situation. Easier, yeah.
Okay, well, never mind.
Forget I said it.
Yeah, forget I even mentioned. I'll cut it out. Yeah. So you sound pretty optimistic that it'll be open.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. It's going to happen. I
love to hear that.
Yeah. So, I'm not a political person, right? So it's not like I'm saying, oh, I love everything about these politicians. But what I will say is Governor Lee is very invested in the Cumberland Trail. It's like in his top 5 priorities. So
really?
Yes. Yeah. So he is very much pushing for this. And that is a huge part. So part of his legacy, and I don't want to speak for him, is state parks. So he is a huge part of why North Chickamauga is its own state park now. And he has a vision of opening a lot more state parks. And one of those things is the opening of the Cumberland Trail. So he wants to see that within his time in office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's
gunning for it. Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's good news for us.
Yeah. So, without getting political at all, pretty cool for us.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Speaking of political, I'm not going to talk about politics, but just theoretically, I tend to lean more like libertarian on the side of things. And parks are maybe the number one thing that like what I like and what I theoretically believe kind of clash. Where it's like I really love parks. I really love these trails. I am like so grateful that either the state has purchased them or they've been given to different nonprofits and NGOs and everything like that. I'm so grateful. And it's like, how do I resolve that with my philosophy? And it's like, don't know. Yeah. Don't have to. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of, I like to see things in the middle, and so I don't think that there's ever one right or wrong way necessarily to look at something, but a lot of times it's that gray area in the middle. So it doesn't, state parks, public land is one of the most incredible things about the United States. Theodore Roosevelt is an incredible, my dog's name is Theodore after Theodore Roosevelt. It's one of the most incredible things that we've done is able to share with, future generations, the beautiful land that is in all of our backyards. It's something that I'm passionate about and it's very important. I think, I have a young child. For him to be able to go out and explore these areas. And, private land is obviously important. I own 8 acres and I'm proudly a landowner, but it's also important to have these spaces that we can all come together and enjoy them,
And I think it's so cool that there's so much buy-in from people who own these particularly beautiful pieces. Like I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who owns just these gorgeous, gorgeous spots. And being like, yes, you should have it. The public should have it.
Isn't that kind of a beautiful thing?
That's more generous than I am.
I know. I think I'm like super selfish whenever I think about, some of these landowners and things like that. And they're like, I want to share this with my community, It's an awesome thing that people do. So, yeah.
It's like, wow. And what an honor, what a privilege, to be able to then be able to just walk on it, walk through it. It's just so cool.
And a lot of, landowners, or at least the ones that I've spoken to personally, they're like, this is something that I don't know if my great-great-grandchildren, our land might get split up in a million different ways,
Yep.
And so I want to guarantee that my great-great-grandchildren can come walk on this land and say, this was my family's, So, because... And once again, I'm all for, I'm not, getting into all that, but just kind of the being able to know that your family is a part of something greater than that, And I know every state park, every piece of public land has that component to it,
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you give it to the public, that your children will be able to go on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's so cool that, through all the hard work from, of people like you and generosity of different landowners and private and, commercial, it's like this thing not only has come so far, but, like you said, you're really optimistic about it becoming open. I don't know. That's whenever I had heard about the Cumberland Trail, just tidbits, I kind of thought that connecting it was like, maybe like 50 years out or something like that. And it's like, probably sooner.
Probably sooner.
Yeah. Like maybe a lot sooner. So
yeah. So
that's
it's
super exciting.
I know, and we're in like this really exciting period right now with the Cumberland Trail, where there's so much going on, and there's so much excitement behind it. You know, from our legislative people and from our communities, that it's just like this is happening. You know, and I hope that everybody's excited about it, or as excited as we are. You know, that it's all something we're kind of experiencing together. I mean, what a neat time in the Cumberland Trail history, you know, scaling it back to like the 70s when it was just an idea. And now it's like, you know, going back to Sam Powell or Evan Means or Bob Brown, you know, it's like, hey, you did it, you know, like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did it, man. What a legacy.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is going to, like, that is a really cool legacy, because it benefits so many people, and essentially in perpetuity, like, and not even, you know, I think about like the residents benefiting from it, and we do the most because we can go there anytime. But you were talking about how the United States, like our national parks and our state parks, are like such a cool treasure. It's like, this is to some degree for the world, because people come to the United States to visit, and it's open to them. Like, it's open to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is a gift.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And something that, you know, in my travels, which have primarily been around, you know, the United States, something that we don't really consider is that Tennessee doesn't charge to go into our state parks. It's free to access, you know.
And other states do, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if you go into other parks, it could be, you know, it could be $5, it could be $15, you know, to visit the state, which, I mean, good for them, because then they get that funding, right? But it's something that we don't think about here in Tennessee. We just drive into our state parks and go for a walk, you know?
What a great point.
Yeah. So
take it for granted.
It's something you don't think about until you go to
a state park.
And then you're like, hey, I have to pay.
What the heck?
Yeah. So it's free. It's free to
Well,
the
it's a
public.
volunteer state.
Yeah, that's right. Go Vols, baby.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of holding true to that theme.
Yeah,
volunteer. It's free. How did you get into this personally? Like, what's your how do you fall into making trail? Maybe it was very intentional.
No, it was definitely falling into it. So yeah,
it was like, that's insulting.
No. So I was a server at Cracker Barrel, and I was downtown playing Pokemon Go whenever that was very popular, in the Courthouse Square, which is where my office is in Crossville, is the Courthouse Square. And me and my friend Jessica were walking along and saw a job listing for a trail builder for Crab Orchard, which is actually the small town that I'm from. And I was like, that is cool, being a trail builder in the little community that I'm from. And I was getting ready to go into college for wildlife and fisheries.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's a lot more applicable than being a server at Cracker Barrel. And so I just started building hiking trails. And that was in August of 2016, which was a drought. So that was a rough time to get started with trail building.
I actually remember that year.
Yeah, it was.
We had fires.
It was very hot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember driving. That was the year that our firstborn was born, and we were driving back from the hospital on 27, and there were fires.
Oh,
Smoke,
really?
And it was just like, what?
Yeah. It was very hot, very dry. So it was a good time to get immersed in trail building. But yeah, it just kind of took off from there. And, you know, something that I tell, of course, now I'm more of an office person, right? So I'm doing more of the advocacy and all of the boring stuff that goes into trail building. But not that advocacy is boring, but just I'm not on the ground is what I'm trying to say. You know, I'm not out there all the time. So you know, you really develop a passion for it. And that's something that I tell, like, whenever I go to hire new trail builders, is like, if you want to stick around in this job, it's because you're going to fall in love with it, you know? Right. And if you're not in love with trail building, you know, it's too much hard work. Yeah. It's incredibly hard work. Mm-hmm. So like, as we're sitting here in this air conditioned building, drinking coffee and tea, I have 2 different trail groups out right now swinging pigmatics for 8 hours a day, you know? So, I mean, they're working very hard. It's no joke. It's very hard. Yeah.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Being not from Dayton, but spending time here for work and stuff like that. And you talked about how you really liked it when we were getting coffee. Mm-hmm. What do you think is Dayton's, just from, there's no right or wrong answer, but from your perspective, what makes Dayton so cool,
Mm-hmm.
like so great, and what do you see being the future of Dayton? Meaning, like, how do you see it turning into the best version of itself?
So, and I'm not trying to say this to pander.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think the people down here are like incredibly kind. It's so weird how nice everyone is down here. I mean, literally, just the people down here are amazing. And I've heard that sentiment from a lot. I mean, that's not just me that has experienced that. There are genuinely nice people down here who are very open to being friends. You know, it's not some closed off kind of cliquey. That's my perspective from an outsider, right?
Yeah,
It's just very kind people. What was the second part of that question?
How do you see Dayton becoming the best version of itself? Like, and that might be hard as an outsider, but like, it's like, yeah, what are its potentials, maybe? From your perspective.
So obviously I'm kind of skewed towards seeing things through the Cumberland Trails,
right?
You know, but I definitely see it as being this trail town, this, you know, having all of these cool little facets of like, you know, filling all of these things, these roles of, you know, tourism and stuff like that. But not only that, just because people are so kind and everything like that down here, just, I don't see any hangups with like you guys being a super awesome trail town and just, the openness, the awesomeness of everybody down here, you know, whether it be, you know, like how Alan has his brewing company or, you know, whatever, or a nice hotel. And it's such an adorable downtown, you know, so cute. And so, you know, hostels, things like that. I don't know if that's feeding into what you were expecting me to say or whatever. But
no, I mean, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Do you see hiking towns? What do you call them?
Trail towns.
Trail towns.
Yeah.
Do you see trail towns like downtowns being the main hub for trail towns? Meaning, does the trail element, the tourism element, bring the most attention to downtown?
Well, I guess that's a yes and a no, you know. I mean, okay, so for, you know, going back to like day hikers, right? So a lot of what I've done is like day hiking type stuff. Whenever I look into a trail, you know, whatever it may, wherever I'm going, my next thought is, where is the closest downtown area, you know, and primarily it's smaller towns, but I'm looking for something to eat, you know? And so,
as most hikers probably would. So,
yeah.
So probably the first thing you're going to notice is restaurants benefiting from day hikers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Alan has seen that, you know, so I have a close relationship with Alan. I love that guy.
Alan Garrison.
Yeah, Alan
Monkey
Garrison.
Town. Yeah.
Yeah, steady repping Alan Garrison. But yeah, he's, you know, kind of reported to me like during, you know, the busy season. I feel like Laurel Snow is always kind of busy, but you know, people coming off the trail, you know, and being like, oh yeah, we just hiked at Laurel Snow, or coming from out of town, you know. And I think Laurel Snow, the trailhead, gets like 16,000 visitors a year or something like that. And like, you know, I can't remember the exact percentage, but there's like a percentage of them that goes directly to Monkey Town afterwards. So it's just like, that's what people are looking for, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I could see that being, especially if we get a connector, I could see, because you're right that our downtown is awesome, but there's not a lot of, because of the bypass 27, like a lot of traffic and stuff has bypassed the downtown section, and the courthouse doesn't hold court there anymore. We built so the actual square is not as busy as it used to be. And I could see, you know, if there's going to be a connector, I don't see it going anywhere but downtown. Is that typical?
Yeah, for sure.
So there you go. So the connector goes downtown, and now we're talking like maybe some restaurants, hospitality.
Yeah, and you know, obviously there's still more development to take place or whatever, but being from somewhere, I do think that there's some things that maybe aren't seen as like already cool in Dayton, you know, like art crafters. That little shop is so cool.
It's
so
awesome.
like
I love
after you
them.
get a bite at Monkey Town, then you want to walk it off, right? And maybe
Yeah.
you go to art crafters and like walk through there, or, you know, just something like that, because that's what you want, right? Is kind of this experience of kind of getting a feel for the town. And what a cool little place, showing everybody's art and having the artists there. there, you know? I mean, that's already so cool, you know, just like that kind of local element, I feel like is what you're looking for. I mean, you know, I'm sure you travel places, and whenever you go somewhere, you want to feel kind of.
Check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the shopping like?
Exactly.
Get some food.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want it to be like a, I don't know where people shop now, like Gap, or maybe that's older, like Old Navy. You know, you want these like local places that you feel like are so cool and like, you know, a part of their community. And I feel like Dayton definitely has that vibe going on. It's not like you have an Applebee's in your downtown, you know,
Right.
It's like these local places.
Right.
So
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. Well, I love it. Thanks so much for all of your hard work. I hope that you make a lot of progress toward opening with all the other groups. And maybe one day I'll have you back on to celebrate something like that.
Yeah. And, you know, just reiterating, our website is cumberlandtrail.org. Feel free to go on there and check out our trail sections or follow us on social media, Cumberland Trails Conference, and you guys can see what we're up to. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I follow them on Facebook, and they post really great stuff. They talk about different trailheads, different progress that they're making on trails, and it's always really fun.
Yeah. Thank you.